And with this in mind, there's no way I can get a fair trial. I'm supposed to be getting, because Donald Trump challenged the election. So let's put him in jail for the rest of his life, okay? Even though it was a crooked election. Do you ever know they only go after the people that challenge the results of the election? They don't go after the people that cheated. Those people are free. Those people have no problem.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and the Republican presidential candidates descended on New Hampshire, and it was like a carnival sideshow of conspiracies and outright lies. While the GOP contenders were out canvassing against Trump, Donald was busy in his own event. Donald was on stage in front of a teleprompter making his own outrageous claims.
If you want to challenge the result of an election, they hound you. Look what happened this weekend with two good people. They hound them and they scare them but we don't get scared. We don't get scared. I'll tell you what, I don't mind being Nelson Mandela.
He told his crowd that he had new evidence that the 2020 presidential election was stolen, but he's not releasing it until next week. He also claimed that he would be providing fundraising numbers that would make everybody's head spin, but he didn't give any details on that either. Instead, he bellyached about getting indicted because he protested an election. He did more than protest the election, though. He directed a violent mob to launch a coup against our country. He also said that he was going to march down to the Capitol with them all, but guess what? He didn't do that, and ultimately called them the mob intruders and then threatened every one of them.
Doing it for a reason. We got to save our country from these fascists, these lunatics that we're dealing with. They're horrible people, and they're destroying our country. I talk about threats from within and threats from outside. The threats from within, in my opinion, are far more dangerous than the threats of China and Russia.
Donald likes to hype up wild allegations about people when he thinks it makes him look like a big shot. But when faced with acknowledging his own misdeeds, he downplays his role as a criminal. Trump talked about Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro, both having pled guilty as co-conspirators to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. He tried to say that they were good people who are being picked on and got scared. Donald hyped up the crowd's oppositional defiance and assured them that he doesn't get scared. He went on and told the next lie before the last one even got cold. Donald portrayed himself to the crowd as the victim and the hero at the same time. He said, "I'll tell you what, I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for the right reasons." Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison for opposing South African apartheid. He faced brutal conditions meant to break his will, but he never wavered in his stance. After Nelson Mandela was released from prison, he negotiated the end of apartheid with then-President F.W. de Klerk, bringing peace to a deeply divided nation. Mandela was seen as a champion for civil rights and won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work. Donald Trump is nothing like Nelson Mandela. In fact, he's the complete opposite and is heading to prison. He's not on the verge of being released. Donald Trump is an absolute moron. Donald is indeed facing the rest of his life in prison, but it's not because he did something good. Donald sold this country out. He gave classified information to clowns on the street and briefed an Australian billionaire about our nuclear submarine capabilities. Donald Trump mishandled classified information and made the world a more dangerous place. Donald Trump is a common criminal. He's not fit to tie the shoelaces of someone like Nelson Mandela. Donald's followers don't fact-check his garbage, though, and still send him money. Donald Trump loves the undereducated, and it's painfully obvious why. Because they're not smart enough to recognize the fraudster that he is. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.